The greatest league in the world, the National Football League, is fully in action. It's heating up, and the only thing better than watching football is cashing off football. We've got best bets, we've got player props, Degen Parlays, and a Thursday night football breakdown. Stay tuned for our NFL Week 3 Best Bets. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of the Degen Docs on the DFSG Plus Sports Betting Channel. What is up, folks? I am one of your hosts here at the Degen Doc, and more importantly, I am joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, aka Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Not too bad. Not too bad. We had a pretty good week last week, so pockets are feeling a little heavier going into week 3, which is always an awesome feeling.
Absolutely. Took week 1 to calibrate the engines a little bit, and
Right.
like you
Locking
mentioned,
the lasers, we're ready to roll. We're seeing the road
solid
well.
week 2, and NFL week 3. We've been waiting for this. We are now into the season, starting to see what teams are pretenders, what teams are contenders. Still got a lot of football left, but this is NFL week 3, and this is our Betting Locks NFL Pick Show. And if this is your first time joining us, well, first off, welcome to the Degen Docs family. Thank you for joining. We hope you stick around. And the way this is going to work, folks, is we're going to do a very, very brief, week 2 takeaways, do a little bit there, see what we learned, and then we're going to get right into it. We are going to talk our props of the week. We're each going to give out 3 prop bets that we absolutely love and talk targets there. Then we're going to give out our Docs prescription. That is our best bets, whether it's money line, over-unders, maybe a team total sneaking in there. What our best 4 bets each are for this NFL Week 3 slate. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with a Thursday night football preview, talking about those 0-2 Miami Dolphins heading up to Buffalo with a big, big number. We're talking game lines and all the player props you could need. And don't forget, we have a nice Degen parlay. That is right. Something that, what if that 50-1 hits? What if that 100-1 hits? That is where we have a little fun with a little bit of pizza bet. So without further ado, I have to ask you, NFL Week 2, we had a ton of games, obviously still in that stretch where there's no bye week, so we're getting all the action we could want. What are a couple quick takeaways from last week in the NFL?
Yeah, I think, there was a few things that we definitely kind of carried through to week 2 that were maybe a little bit of a surprise from week 1, i.e. the Green Bay Packers are for real.
Yeah, really good.
That team is looking really good out of the gate so far. A couple of teams that didn't play so well that absolutely lit it up this past week. Detroit, yeah, that team is still legit. Let me think here. Obviously, the Bills end up out or blown out the Jets. Baltimore put it on Cleveland. That Indianapolis offense, holy smokes! Where did Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor and those boys come from? I mean, JT, we kind of knew what he was, but that offense looks different.
I think now. The stat was like 7. They're the only team that's not. They've scored points on like every drive, I think it was, or something like that.
Yeah, they haven't punted yet.
They haven't punted. Yeah,
they punted one time. It got called back for running into the kicker, I believe. So they ended up getting a first down. Didn't end up counting.
There we go. Yeah, no. A couple of takeaways for me. A lot of the Green Bay Packers absolutely agree. They look great. The Bears are awful. That it's not just the Vikings were good. It was maybe both those teams are bad, and the Bears are absolutely awful. So after so much hope, the Ben Johnson kind of aura, and that's quickly fading.
Mm-hmm.
We're on a QB injury run. Burrow, Purdy, Daniels, Fields, McCarthy. I mean, at least 3, if not more, of those guys are going to be out, which we'll get to. The Broncos losing in the way they lost, being one of my locks at -1.5. Being up 2 and having an absolutely asinine penalty was sad. But my saddest moment was, of course, my New York Football Giants. Trying to not – I mean, I was with my wife at the bar, and I kept saying to not be excited. It's not going to happen, not going to happen. But that Malik Neighbors touchdown with 20 seconds left, I actually had hope. So shame on me for believing him.
He's a dog, dude. Hey, I do have one question. I know we want to get to bets, though. You mentioned quarterback injuries. The big one, obviously, Joe Burrow going down with that turf toe injury, requiring
Right.
surgery. He's going to be out for a few months here. Looking back at, I can't remember what the year was, whenever they drafted Jamar Chase. Are we
Right.
starting to think that Penei Sewell would have been the better pick there?
Right, the classic meme of Burrow, Sewell, and Chase there. Yes,
Yeah.
I mean they still haven't figured out their offensive line, so it's like it's the whole line though. I don't think it's just one tackle position.
Oh,
So
sure.
he would have
Yeah.
helped for sure, but I think they just have a lack of investment in the line. Really, I mean we saw what happened with Trey Hendrickson, so
Yeah.
the Cincinnati issue.
Yeah.
But we are moving on quickly to get to our bets recap. So we had
Yeah.
a solid week as we mentioned. Shout out to you going 3-0 on your props last week.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I followed up with the 2-1 there.
Yep.
Both two
I
and
think
two
we were
locks.
both 2-2 on our locks, so not awful, but still some room to improve.
Absolutely. But on Thursday night last week, just hey,
You
six
crushed
and
it,
zero,
dude.
baby, for
Crushed
your
it.
boy here. So pay attention. Those Thursday night previews can be quite profitable. All right, we are moving on. We are now focused fully on NFL week number 3, and we're going
Yep.
to talk our props of the week. So we're going to go back and forth. As a gracious host, I will let you start. What
Okay.
is your first prop of the week here for NFL week 3?
Yeah, let's go over to the Indianapolis Colts and Titans game. A little AFC South action there. Give me Jonathan Taylor 90 plus rushing yards at -110. I mean, so far the Titans have, I believe, the worst rushing defense in the league, and it's by quite a far margin.
They're fourth. As
Fourth.
hard as that's to
Okay.
believe, giving up 150 yards a game, they're
Okay.
only
So
fourth.
so only fourth. He's coming off of, I believe, a 160-yard game last
Yep.
week. So
Mhm.
I think that Jonathan Taylor continues to pound the rock and run the ball. I think that the whole Danny Dimes thing is a great narrative to this point. I still think that he will end up being a pumpkin eventually. I think Shane Steichen has that offense rolling, but when it comes to division matchups, a lot of times teams just start to play slightly differently, and I'm not entirely sure if the Colts will continue to be as balanced as they have been. I think really leaning on their lead back and Jonathan Taylor is going to be the key in that game. So give me Jonathan Taylor over 90.
No, I really like this one. I was very close to playing something very similar, getting Taylor with his rushing there. Like you said, the matchup is really good, and we'll see. The Titans' offense has struggled to
Yep.
score points. This could be a game where obviously the Colts are favored by 4.5. A game
Right.
they may be expected to win. And I think regardless, if they want to have success, they need to lean on Jonathan Taylor. So
Yep.
no issues with that play at all. In a similar fashion, I'm also going to go to the rushing market here. Give me Seattle Seahawks RB1 Kenneth Walker over
Mhm.
53.5 rush yards, -110 over at Bet365 here. In a very similar case, New Orleans, not a great rush defense. They're not
Nope.
terrible. They're giving up
Nope.
111 yards a game. But
Right.
I think that this is a situation where Seahawks, I believe, are 7.5-point favorites, expected to win the game. So you have the game script as far as wanting to lean on the run. Also, in week 1, there was a lot more Charbonnet than Walker. Week 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers here, it was a lot more even. Kind of, they both got double-digit carries. But
Right.
Charbonnet had 15 carries for only 10 yards for an average of under a yard a carry. Meanwhile,
Yep.
Kenneth Walker, 13 carries, 105 yards, one touchdown,
Don't remind
averaging
me.
over 8 yards a carry there. The other side of this is looking at Charbonnet, a guy that I kind of like coming into the season and had a solid week 1. Is he hurt? Well, he's not practicing today. He has a foot injury and did not participate in practice. Of course, it's only Wednesday, so that doesn't necessarily mean he might not play, but obviously tells you he's a bit dinged up. So I think that they lean on the running game in a game that they're projected to be up in. And I
Yep.
think Kenneth Walker is, again, their RB1. So even if they want to split carries, I'm okay going up against New Orleans defense that they've been competitive, but
Yeah.
we've seen this team start to quit as once they realize kind of things are going south. So,
Sure.
yeah, I like this one. I think 53.5 is entirely too low for any RB1 to be going against the Saints defense. What is your next play there for props?
Yeah, let me switch over to the Chiefs at your Giants on Sunday Night Football.
Right.
I don't know if you're gonna like this one from a fan standpoint. Betting standpoint, you might, but Patrick Mahomes hasn't been the he's been playing okay, but at the same
Right.
time, I mean, the Chiefs are 0-2,
Yeah.
but they're going up against the Giants team that's given up over 270 yards passing a game to this
Right.
point, and Dak lit him up last week, and I can't remember who they play the first week.
Jane Daniels. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jaden Daniels. He didn't necessarily have to throw the ball a ton, but
No, I think
yeah, give me Patrick Mahomes over 240 passing yards at plus 109 for this
yeah,
week.
this is something, Giants take that I did not expect in going into the season. I thought the defense was going to be leading the team. Week one they played okay, all things
Yeah.
considered. The offense was absolutely terrible, and they only let up 20 points, I think, to Commanders.
Yep.
But last week, man, there's so much talent on that defense, but Shane Bowen, defense coordinator, he just hasn't figured it out. Whether
Right.
it's playing prevent defense when you have Brandon Aubrey on the other side and they only need a field goal to tie,
Mhm.
whether you're rolling Deontay Banks out there still when he's clearly shown he's not a
He's
NFL
not a guy.
cornerback.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the big thing here is that the Chiefs wide receivers are getting a bit healthy. Xavier Worthy and Jalen
Actually
Royals, the
play.
rookie who's yet to play, both practicing today. So the expectation is they're probably going to play. So I
Yep.
don't mind this. Obviously, yeah, as a fan, I'm not going to be rooting for it, but
Right.
I think it makes a lot of sense. The Chiefs can't start 0-3. I mean, neither can the Giants, but obviously Patrick Mahomes a little bit higher of a caliber than Russell Wilson at this point. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't mind it. And if maybe we're in it, we could just take it as the Giants have such a big lead, they got to throw the ball to get back into the game.
Sure. Sure. We'll put it that way. Yes. Yeah. Some garbage
uh,
time yards. Yeah.
All right, let's my pick number 2 here for player props. I'm going to a guy who torched those Giants just last week, and that's Mr. CeeDee Lamb over 81 and a half receiving yards minus
Yeah.
110. They're playing. This is a game between the Cowboys and the Bears. I think this game projects to be one of the higher scoring games. I mean, they have, I believe, one of the highest totals at 50 and a half. You know, Dak, like you mentioned, he threw for almost 400 yards last week. CD's gone for over 100 yards in each of his first 2 games. He is that number one wide receiver. And Bears cornerback number 1, Jalen Johnson, who returned last week, torn his groin, essentially needs surgery, grade
Yep.
3 tear, likely
Yep.
out for the season, definitely out this week. Linebacker TJ Edwards, who patrols over the middles, he's going to be out.
Yep.
Kyler Gordon is dealing with the hamstring injury. So not only are they a bad defense that obviously gave up 52 points to Detroit, but their secondary is also beat up.
Yep.
I don't see, with Jalen Johnson out and potentially Kyler Gordon, I don't see a guy on this roster that's going to be able to cover CeeDee Lamb. So
Right.
I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And he's also Dak's favorite target. So he's going to get
Mhm.
peppered with targets. We've seen really in all types of game scripts that CeeDee Lamb and Dak, that connection continues to be true. But especially going up against a couple of backups there,
Right.
and they move him all around in the slot and wherever he wants to be. You got George Pickens on the other side. It's just shown that CD still can do what he does. So I
Still
understand
the guy.
81 and a half is a big number. But again, 100 yards first 2 weeks, and I think he has a great matchup this week.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to tail you on that one. I really like that one. But for my last one, let's shift down to the Falcons at Carolina. And we've talked about this before, but Carolina's defense, or rush defense, especially over the last couple of years, has been historically bad.
Terrible.
And they, at
Justin.
this point, have been maybe a little bit better, but they're still giving up over 140 yards on the ground a game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not last right now, but
Right.
we're still pretty early into the season. So give me Bijan Robinson 90 plus rushing yards at plus 123. Going back to last year when these teams matched up, obviously it's an in division game, but he rushed for 95 in the first game and 170 to finish the season off. So we went over this number both times a year ago, and I don't necessarily think that Carolina has gotten a whole lot better along that defensive front.
No. Look, man, by gosh, we did it again because last week, again, pulling back the curtain, we talked about, hey, we don't really share our bets to try to not bias each other. And then we
Right.
just kind of throw them in the sheet here. And, when I saw this, as I had already placed this bet, I was like, damn, All right, we did it again. Kyler, we
Right.
gave out Kyler Murray over on the rush
Last week.
yards. That cash last week, so hopefully we do it again. I will do Bijan Robinson over 80.5 rush yards over on DK at minus
Maybe a
112.
little laddering situation
Right,
here.
absolutely. You've mentioned a lot of great points. The other thing here is Carolina's been awful. This has been a take I've had since the season started. I'm very big on their under, and their offensive line is only going to get worse. They lost 2 starting linemen in Robert Hunt and Austin Herbert, both on the
Yep.
IR. That just tells
Yep.
me that I expect Atlanta. I got this early in the week when it was 3.5. This number opened at. I expect Atlanta to be up big, and they very much lean on the run game as we saw last week against Minnesota. And I think, like you said, this defense is a lot worse.
Yep.
Tershawn Wharton, their defensive tackle, and outside linebacker Patrick Jones not practicing. Wharton's expected to be out this week in that defensive line. He was the big kind of free agent piece that's supposed to help shore it up. They didn't really fix the playing against the run. And I think that Bijan's going to get a lot of attempts, man. He looks so good just running the ball. Just as a eye test.
As you would expect from, the top fantasy running back in the league. I mean,
we did have him as our RB1, and
Yeah.
he just looks so fluid. He's catching passes, and again, I think that we'll see that this game could get a little bit squirrely with it being a division rivalry, but
Right.
Atlanta's going to try to establish the run. They're not a team like the Bengals that's going to throw 50 times. So love Bijan with you there. All right, man. Those are the props of the week. As a quick recap, Derek is on Jonathan Taylor 90 plus at minus 110. He's on Patrick Mahomes 240 plus passing yards at plus 109, and Bijan Robinson 90 plus rushing yards against those Carolina Panthers at plus 123, all over on DraftKings. I am on Kenneth Walker over 53.5 rush yards at minus 110 at Bet365. CeeDee Lamb over 81.5 receiving yards minus 110. Also at Bet365 against those Bears. And then we're on it again. We're running it back. Bijan Robinson over 80.5 rush yards minus 112 at DraftKings. Way too low of a number for someone who's, he could, like you said, the ladder situation for Bijan is definitely there.
No doubt.
All right, we're getting into our best bets, our Doc's prescriptions of the week, bets that we feel so good about that we are prescribing it to you right now. I'll let you start off. What's your first bet of the week?
First bet, let's talk about this Texans Jags matchup that we're going to see for the first time this weekend. This is just solely on one, Houston being 0-2, and I think that they need a win. Two, they dominate the Jags. They just have. Since 2017, the Jags have won twice, and they play the Texans twice a year. So going back 7-8 years, the Jaguars have found a way to win twice. And I don't necessarily think that the Jags are that much better going into this season. They have improved, and Houston is still trying to figure out how to protect CJ Stroud. But I think that the Houston Texans just need a win at this point. So give me the Houston Texans on the money line at plus 105.
All right. Well, my preseason takes of the Jags to win the AFC South. I will not be rooting for you there, but I don't know how the Jags lost that game against the backup quarterback in Jake Browning last week. So that was a bad game to lose. Obviously the Texans don't want to fall to 0-3 there. They've got to figure some things out. So I don't mind that. And I will be heading to a game where it's the battle of the backup quarterbacks. And this is the Cincinnati Bengals heading to the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
Give me the Bengals +3 at minus 102 at DraftKings. Look, JJ McCarthy dealing with the high ankle sprain. He's going to be out several weeks, potentially. He's in a boot. They're talked about IR potential. And then, obviously, you talked about Joe Burrow getting that surgery for his turf toe. He's going to be out 3 months, close to the whole season. And they brought a couple guys in, but they didn't sign anybody. And I think that's because Jake Browning is his guy that they can trust.
Sure.
I know, I know it's not just quarterbacks against quarterbacks, but when we talk about who do I trust, Jake Browning or Carson Wentz, it's Jake Browning by a landslide at this point. Carson Wentz, won in the back half of his career at 32. He's been just bouncing around the past couple years, kind of just getting some starts at like essentially the end of the regular
Right.
season
Right.
when it's kind of meaningless nobodies,
Yep.
basically. So, last time that he started a game, it was against Denver. They lost 38-0 to the Chiefs. He went from 10 for
Week
17,
18. Yep.
98 passing yards, and took 4 sacks.
Yep.
So, meanwhile, Jake Browning came in 21 out of 32 last week. He had 2 touchdowns. He had a couple interceptions, but he's a guy that's going to hit Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, he's not afraid to throw the ball, and that's what you need to do.
No doubt about it.
So, I like really a lot of it. I don't typically like to just go off quarterbacks, but I think that Jake Browning can keep this team and this offense kind of going.
Sure.
And that Minnesota offense, even with their starting quarterback, outside of that one quarter against the Bears, has looked really bad.
Yeah.
They've got offensive line issues. They're having trouble protecting. And if Carson Wentz doesn't have time, we've known at least early in his career he can turn a couple balls over. So give me the Bengals.
It's fair. Yeah, let's move to probably one of the better games of the week in the Los Angeles Rams going to Philadelphia to face the Eagles, who just got a major win against the Chiefs this past week. This is mostly a scheduling thing for me. The Rams had to travel over to Nashville to face the Titans last week. They're on the road again, traveling to the East Coast, and this one's a 1:00 game against Philly. Give me the Eagles at -3.5.
Yeah, this is fun because I'm going to be on the absolute opposite side here. Give me the Rams in this one. This is a rematch of that NFC, I think, divisional matchup or whatever it was there. And look, they came very close to beating the Eagles. They were a couple plays away at Philadelphia last time. You talked about, Philadelphia, big emotional game going up Kansas City, playing their hearts out, they've got a 4-point win against a Dallas team that really probably, if we're being honest, should have lost to the Giants, and a Kansas City team who kind of got dominated by the Chargers and doesn't have their top 3 wide receivers. Like, especially on the defensive side of the ball, they've been playing well, but that cornerback 2 position is still a big question mark.
Sure.
And now you have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp Devontae Adams coming to town, and Matt Stafford, a guy who can actually get it to him. So I really like the Rams here in this one. I think that also one thing that's been in the very big in the national media is this whole tush push where the Eagles, clearly have been false starting. They've been lining up in the neutral zone. Now, to be fair, other teams have also been lining up in the neutral zone. We talked about this in the offseason, but I was against banning the tush push because I think it's soft. As much as I hate the Eagles and that this plays effective for them, every team can run it. And just because they're better at it doesn't mean. But the big thing is if you cannot officiate it appropriately, then you need to figure that out. Either start calling the penalties on both sides or get it out. Because as we saw against the Chiefs last week, it's not the only reason the Chiefs lost. They lost really because Travis Kelce didn't catch the damn ball. But clear false starts that changed the game there. Clear, lining up offside. So I think that honestly, when we see like the Jawan Taylor thing, when things get a lot of national attention, I think there's going to be some penalties here on the Eagles. And I think honestly, that's going to play into this a little bit where we're going to see a couple of those penalties we don't usually see them getting. But outside of that, I do like this Rams team. I mean, they were my pick to win the NFC. I really think they're rolling. This is going to be a test for their run defense. Did it get any better? Because Saquon has owned them in the past for the past 2 games. So if they haven't fixed that, then you might be on the right side here. But I think that between having 2 stud wide receivers coming to town, that they haven't really played that caliber there, I'm excited to see what Stafford and the boys can do. But I do think this is, like you said, probably the best game of the week.
Yeah, no doubt. Moving on to my third game, I got another money line dog here. And it's a little road dog division matchup with Arizona and the San Francisco 49ers. I think Arizona, at this point, I don't know if I can fully trust them still. I think they've looked pretty good over the first couple of weeks. And San Francisco, I mean, we talked about it, last week. The Niners are already beat up somehow. And they might be getting Purdy back. Might be. But he's still missing George Kittle and
Yeah, I
Ayuk
mean,
and
Ayuk and all these guys are beat up, and
all of those guys are beat
if he
up.
plays, he's gonna be beat up, man. He's gonna, it's not like he's
Exactly,
100%.
exactly, and I think it's just one of those things where San Francisco ended up getting the win last week, but to a Saints team that is, in my opinion, going to be one of the worst teams in the league, and you
Yeah.
win by 5 points. So yeah, give me the Cardinals on the road on the money line at plus 136.
This is one that I really considered heavily, because I do think that this can be a decent spot for Arizona. My one hesitation here is their defense has been playing really well, but they dealt with some decent injuries last week.
That's true.
LJ Collier and cornerback Garrett Williams that were placed on the
Yep.
IR today. Will Johnson, and so 3 cornerbacks got hurt for them. Will
Right.
Johnson, Max Milton, Garrett Williams. Garrett Williams on the IR. Max Milton is practicing, which is a good sign. Will Johnson is not, but it doesn't seem like a long-term injury. So you're kind of like going to get one for sure, but you might be down 2 starting cornerbacks.
Yep.
But again, I'm not in any way does this make me want to jump on San Francisco, because you're either dealing with Mac Jones or a hobbled Brock Purdy, which that
Right.
offensive line is Ben Barch was placed on the injured reserve today. Trent Williams, was been kind of dealing with some injuries and things like that.
Yep.
If he's not able to be as mobile as he needs to be, then that could absolutely be a problem. They were talking about missing 2 to 5 weeks, and now they're talking about just missing 1 week
The
in
one,
him.
right?
So that's a big change in where things happen. And
No
again,
doubt.
things can recover. But yeah, I like this play. Obviously it's a money line dog on division rival on the road, but yeah, I don't mind that at all. All right, let's go with so I'm gonna back those terrible towels back there this week. I did last week and
Okay.
it burned me.
Okay.
Caleb Johnson will probably never see the field again because
Holy
absolutely
smokes,
one of
dude!
the most boneheaded plays. I like Caleb Johnson. I
I
thought he
I
was a
thought
good
I
guy.
was going to. I thought I was going to love the guy, and now
I
I think it's a
know,
waste of
very
a pick.
tough runner, but he's been relegated to kickoff duty, and clearly nobody taught him. This isn't college,
Yeah. Got
when
to
the ball,
field the ball if it's
yeah, and
in
when it
play.
hits the end zone, it's not automatically dead.
Yeah.
Uh, Completely flipped that game. Now, I'm not going to say the Steelers were definitely going to win, but they would have
Right.
had a decent shot.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a lot less about the Steelers, and this is much more about the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
The New England Patriots were a team that I think we were both lower on. I know I took their under this year, and I'm extremely low on the Miami Dolphins. And they
They gave him a game.
they needed a kickoff return for a touchdown to win the
2
game.
of them.
Yeah. Oh, they get 2?
They
My
got 2.
goodness.
Yeah.
I was okay. Well, yeah, that's even proves my point even more. That was an absolute dogfight in Miami, and I think they're coming home. And some people are starting to believe in them. I am not. Give me Pittsburgh -1.5, -115. I think we're getting a really good number here. Tomlin's a good coach. I think that Aaron Rodgers. This pass defense is one of the worst in the leagues right now. Now, Christian Gonzalez is practicing today, but that by
Yep.
no means that he's definitely going to be out there or 100%. He's already re-injured his hamstring once, but they're giving up. They're the only defense in the league giving up over 300 yards in the air.
Yeah.
So this Pittsburgh defense or offense, excuse me, we saw it against the Steelers. They can put
Yep.
up some points, and meanwhile, Patriots still have major concerns in the offensive line. There's a chance the Steelers get back the rookie Harmon, Derek
Mhm.
Harmon, right? I mean, I
Derek
messed
Carmen.
that
Yep.
up. Yeah, Derek Harmon back. He's practicing. And I think if the Patriots aren't able to run the ball, it's going to be tough, and they could see some turnovers there from Jake May. So, yeah, give me the Steelers as the small favorite there at basically a pick 'em in New England.
Yeah, I mean, I like that one. I usually am very hesitant when it comes to the
I know you
Steelers
stay
and
away.
betting on them.
Yep, completely
But this
understand.
is one that I definitely looked at. So, anyways, let's talk a little bit about the Buccaneers. I still like the Bucks, even though they barely snuck out a win there in Houston this past Monday. Give me the Bucks -7 against the Jets. I don't think that Tyrod Taylor is going to be able to lead that team to a victory, and I think that this might be a pleaser opportunity, to be honest with you, to push this up to maybe a 9.5, 10.5, 12.5.
Yeah.
I really think that the Bucks get things rolling offensively because we just saw the Jets give up a shit ton of points to the Bills. And I think that Baker Mayfield in that passing offense, he has much better weapons than Josh Allen does. And I think that this is going to show this coming weekend. So give me the Bucks -7.
Nova, my cat here, must have realized I need some emotional support, I guess, because I'm kind of going to be against you again, but maybe not directly. Maybe we can both win here. Hopefully we can both win.
Okay.
I'm going to be on the Jets team total over 17.5 points -102
Really?
at DK.
Okay.
I mean, the Jets scored one touchdown against the Bills last week. It wasn't Justin Fields. It was Tyrod Taylor. He went 5 for 7, 70 yards and touchdown. Now I understand that's garbage time, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
But Tyrod Taylor can still throw a damn good ball. Now, sometimes that ball goes to the other team, but that's okay. I'm expecting points in this game regardless. I'm not saying that I think the Jets are going to shut down this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense or offense, excuse me.
Yep.
But Bucks just lost Kalijah Kancey for the year. Their pass secondary, their cornerbacks are still very questionable in my mind. Yeah. I don't think there's anyone on that roster that can cover Garrett Wilson. And you're going to see some deep shots that you don't typically see with Justin Fields in this Jets offense. I think that Tyrod's going to be able to spread the ball around. Again, I'm not really saying that I think that the Jets are going to win this game or anything like that. I'm simply saying I think Tyrod Taylor is a guy who can put up some points as a backup quarterback. I think, the books are saying, oh, there's a backup quarterback. We're immediately going to go in. I think the way you win with Justin Fields is you kind of heavy run game and you try to slow that game down. With Tyrod, I think the game speeds up a bit. We see a lot more points. So give me the Jets team total over 17.5, -102 over on DK earlier today.
So what you're saying here is based on both of our bets here, we basically have to bet the over.
I already have, but I figured the only reason
it's gonna be a 28-20 game,
right? Exactly.
Both of us we'll end up cashing the over in that case as well. I like that.
I think we did workshop our way into definitely taking the over there.
There we go.
And I know it's been on the way down, so hopefully it just keeps going down and we get a better number.
Yeah.
All right. So it is now time, or let's do a quick recap here because you have these beautiful graphics made. So it'd be a shame if I didn't get them up. Derek is going to be on. Oh, no, never mind. That's Derek. Okay. Derek's going to be on the Texans money line at +105, taking on those Jaguars there on the road too, right? It's in Jacksonville?
Yes, it's in Jacksonville.
So you're on two road dogs, the Texans and the Cardinals in division matchups there, taking on the 49ers with some either hobbled Brock Purdy or just a really bad Mac Jones at +136. You are on the Eagles at home, -3.5 at the link, -105. And then to finish off, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, -7, -115. They are home, I believe, in Tampa Bay. Yeah. All right. And then for my side, the Cincinnati Bengals gave me Jake Browning over Carson Wentz, +3, -102. New York Jets team total over 17.5. Tyrod, go score some points. We are on opposite sides. I am on the LA Rams to make it a game there in Philadelphia, catching the 3.5, -115. And then I am taking the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they burned me last week against the New England Patriots on the road to get it done. All those over on DraftKings. All right, it's time to get, a lot of it we say we support responsible gambling. We say do not bet more than you can afford to lose. We are a proponent for all of that. But now it's the time that we take a little bit of money and we throw it on something that's going to pay us out very big. It is our Degen Parlay time. And what do you have for the people to get them paid big this week?
Yeah, just a little 2-touchdown parlay here. Just need a couple guys to get in the end zone a couple times. One guy that we've already talked about that I think is going to do massive things, and that's Bijan Robinson.
Right.
Get him in the end zone twice, and then, like I said, the Houston Texans just know how to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I don't necessarily think that there's anybody else there that can do this for the Houston Texans, but Nico Collins, 2 touchdowns. When we put those two together, those 4 touchdowns that are going to happen on Sunday, it's a nice 30 plus 36.52.
Yeah,
37-1.
37-1.
37-1.
So that is Bijan Robinson, 2 touchdowns, and Nico Collins, 2 touchdowns at 37-1 there. Yeah, 2 guys that are very familiar with the end zone. Definitely could
Yeah.
see that happening there. Um, Making sure my cat doesn't claw me to death there. Sorry. All right. So on my side here, I'm going to go Dak Prescott, 300 plus passing yards.
Okay.
All right. Talked about that game between Dallas and Chicago. Think it's going to
Yep.
be a shootout. He just threw for almost 400 against my Giants,
Yep.
and one of the only other teams to lit up that much yardage and points was the Bears last
The
week.
Bears.
That
Yeah.
was when Jalen Johnson was out there for a little bit, and T.J. Edwards. You're
Right.
now down some guys. You've got CeeDee Lamb, you've got George Pickens, I think, and the Dallas defense isn't very good either.
No.
So Caleb
No.
Williams could have himself a day, and I think he will with the guy Roma Dunze, 100 plus receiving yards, who went over 100 yards last week.
If he
He's
did.
clearly his favorite target. Neither Deron Bland nor Trayvon Diggs are practicing today.
Yep.
Don't expect Bland to be out there. Diggs, it's just an illness, so he will probably be out there, but he's still working back from that knee injury. So
Right.
that secondary is still a mess, as the
No doubt.
Giants and Russell Wilson showed you just last week. So, and going to kind of double doink or double, so many doinks this year, but double dip in that game. And then we talked about Bijan against this porous Carolina rush defense.
Yep.
What about my guy Tyler Algier?
Here we go. The bowling ball making an appearance already.
He got me paid very big last year. Of course, I had to throw him in. He went for 70 plus just last week against Minnesota. So as much as we're going to be hammering the Bijan stuff, they do spell him with Algier, especially in a game that can get out of hand. So I expect both these guys to have double-digit carries, and against the Carolina Panthers, that means a bunch of yards. So we have, that is yours, Dak Prescott, 300 pass yards, Roma Dunze, 100 plus receiving yards, Tyler Algier, 60 plus rush yards. Put it all together for a nice 46-1 there over on Bet365, I believe is where I constructed mine. All right, let's get into Thursday night football. We are kicking off NFL Week 3 with a divisional matchup, a lot of divisional matchups this week, which is always fun. We've got one that maybe because it's a divisional matchup is the only reason we'll watch, because the spread certainly tells us this is not going to be a close game. You have the 0-2 Miami Dolphins, my pick to be the worst team in the league this season. They are catching a large 12.5 points, minus 108 over on DraftKings, plus 550 on the money line. While the Bills obviously laying 12.5 at home in their last season in Highmark there, a staggering minus 800 on the money line. Over under sitting at 49.5. I will quickly go through some injuries here, and then Derek is going to lead us off and tell us his analysis and get into our picks. But we've got a decent amount of injuries, so let's start there with the Buffalo Bills. 2 key defenders have been ruled out already. Ed Oliver, defensive tackle, with an ankle injury that he was in a boot. He might not be ready even next week. They said, kind of closer to 3 to 4 weeks, and he already missed last week. So maybe not ready by next week. We'll see. And then Matt Milano looks like he's going to miss several weeks with a pec injury. So both of those guys out. And then you have a couple guys questionable in Shaq Thompson, who should be the replacement for Matt Milano with a hamstring hand. He's been limited practice all week. And so has Taron Johnson with a quad injury. We'll see if Thompson and Johnson can go. Obviously, with already down Milano, that would kind of be big for that linebacking core if he's unable to go. And then Taron Johnson, one of the best nickelbacks in the league there. So on the Miami side, also a pretty beat up team, which is part of the reason they are bad. They already got 2 offensive linemen on the IR, both their right guard and right tackle still out. Our friend Darren Waller, washed up 33-year-old rapper.
Somehow he hasn't made an appearance yet.
Shocker. I wonder who called that. Darren Waller, they already talked about a chance of just shutting him down or just cutting the bait there. But he did return to practice this week, so maybe he'll be out there to give us some laughs. Quarterback who was scheduled to be starting quarterback, Storm Duck, and supposed to be starting safety, Ifiti Melifan, both out as well. So offensive line and secondary have been very beat up and already very bad coming into the season. They continue to take hits. Meanwhile, Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, and defensive tackle Benito Jones, and outside linebacker Chop Robinson, all questionable with limited practices this week. So both teams missing some key guys there, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
And we'll see what's up with Waddle. He was a little bit of a late add to the injury report. He practiced fully on Monday and then got added Tuesday. So we'll see. But he usually tries to play through some of those. All right, man. How do you see this one playing out between the Buffalo Bills, who's owned Miami historically, but have they owned them by this much? Typically not the case.
Yeah. No. The last year we had one blowout and one, I believe, like a 3-point win for Buffalo, and that's kind of how things have been over the last 4 or 5 years. It seems like Buffalo can win by 10, 12, 16 points, and then the next game or the first game, whatever, it's a 3-4 point game. So which one are we going to get this time? Time will tell. At the end of the day, I think the Buffalo Bills will win. I think that's pretty safe to say. But at the same time, it's the line makes me question it a little bit. But I can't take the Dolphins, dude. There's just no way.
It looks so bad. I mean,
whether you can get them at 11.5, I think I saw it earlier at 12.5. Wherever.
Yeah, FanDuel has it at 11.5. The Bills minus 114.
So check out FanDuel if it's still there, because it's probably gonna move because most books have it at 12.5. But
right,
give me the Bills, and at the same time, I mean, the Dolphins have been giving up points and yards left and right, so it's really hard to take any Bills unders. It's really hard to take any Dolphins overs as well, in my opinion. So I started off looking at the receiving matchups, and I really liked what Dalton Kincaid has done so far. It seems like they are targeting him a little bit more frequently to this point, kind of like we were expecting them to last year. He's had 5 targets the last couple of games. So give me Dalton Kincaid's over receiving yards at 30.5 at minus 112. Then I look to the running game, and I think it's one of those matchups where if the Bills end up getting it at least close to where this line is, and obviously over this line, I think this is going to be another James Cook game. Last week he had 130 yards against the Jets. The Dolphins so far are giving up just about 140 yards per game on the ground. So with this one, I kind of did a little laddering of James Cook. Let me pull up some of his numbers here. But I started at 70 yards at minus 104. Then I took it all the way to 80 at plus 147, 90 at 217. And then I ended up stopping at 110 yards at plus 472 for James Cook.
And that's all on the ground, right?
That's all on the ground. Yep. And then finally, I did dip into the anytime touchdown market a little bit. James Cook, his price was just a little bit too steep for me, but Ray Davis has been the second leading carrier, I guess third leading carrier if you count Josh Allen in this offense. So give me Ray Davis anytime touchdown at plus 360.
Yeah, no, I have no issues with a lot of what you said there. I will also be backing the Buffalo Bills. I mean, this should not be a surprise for anyone who's watched the show.
Yep.
I think the Miami Dolphins are the worst team in the league.
Right.
So I'm not going to be backing them. Now, with the Kincaid angle, I think the tight ends are definitely a place that you can target this team. When we look back, Tyler Warren had 7 catches for 76 yards in his very first game off 9 targets.
Yep.
And Austin Hooper was the second leading receiver for the Patriots with 3 catches and 38 yards. So tight end is definitely an area where both the tight ends that played before have hit that. In a similar fashion, in the anytime touchdown market, I'm going to go to a tight end, the other tight end, Dawson Knox, anytime touchdown, plus 470 on FanDuel. I just think that, there's going to be a lot of touchdowns that the Bills are going to score, right? That's why I'm also on the 11.5 there. And I think Dawson Knox, he's a favorite target of Josh Allen. I think he's still very relevant in the red zone. I think getting close to 5-1 against a very, very bad team, especially against a tight end, is I could see both Kincaid and Knox scoring, but I'm obviously going to take the guy that's getting a little bit of better of a number there. So I talked me into Kincaid, absolutely, but I'm going to go with Knox here. Again, Buffalo, they just beat the shit out of the Jets, who I think the Jets are a better team than the Dolphins, and they can score in absolute bunches.
No doubt.
And I just don't think that Miami, they have turnover problems. They have offensive line issues that are very bad. Like, I don't think they're going to have the time to really hit a lot of those deep shots, and we'll kind of get into it here. But all right, I'm going to play James Cook as well, but I'm going to go the rushing and receiving yards route over 84.5, minus 114 on FanDuel there. You mentioned a lot in the rushing game and how Miami, I mean, they're giving up, over 100 plus yards a game. I think over 150.
About 139.
Yeah, they also give up, Ramondre Stevenson was the leading receiver for the Patriots with 5 catches for 88 yards against the Dolphins last week.
Sure.
And then against Jonathan Taylor, who doesn't typically catch a ton of passes, 3 catches for 27 yards. I think that Cook is going to be able to get loose both on the ground and, in the passing game. So I'm going to go ahead and use kind of the safety blanket of doing both. So I'm also pretty high on Cooks there with you. And then another thing that Miami Dolphins have had trouble doing is defending against the quarterback run. Daniel Jones went for 7 for 26 and 2 touchdowns, and Drake May went for 10 rushes, 31 yards, and a touchdown. Now, obviously, I'm not going to take the Josh Allen touchdown angle because it's, I think, like minus 170.
Yeah, it's pretty steep.
That's pretty steep. But I am going to take his rushing yards. 40 plus rushing yards at plus 178 there, excuse me. And even in the game last week where it was a bit of a blowout against the Jets, Josh Allen rushed for 6 rushes for 59 yards.
Yeah.
So, even in a game when he had a long of 40, it just takes him 1 or 2 runs to kind of pop over this. I think that obviously Miami does not stick to the rush lanes. They don't have a lot of good rush integrity. He's going to be able to find some space there. So Josh Allen, I think he likes dominating Miami. So I could see him even in a blowout, still running around and getting some there. Now on the Miami side, I do have a couple plays there. Tua over 1.5 rush yards, minus 110.
Do they allow him to rush?
He had 7 yards.
Are they afraid that he's going to get absolutely killed?
Right. Well, so that's kind of the story. He did not have any rushes last week, but he had 1 rush for 7 yards in week 1. Okay. The Bills have also been a little bit susceptible to the quarterback run. Both Justin Fields, 5 carries for 49 yards, and Tyrod Taylor
hammered him in week 1.
Yeah, Lamar killed him, and even Tyrod in his limited action, 3 carries for 21 yards. Part of this is the Dolphins' offensive line is terrible. Yeah. So I don't think they're going to be able to have the option. He's going to have to get out of the pocket and kind of move around a little bit, even though they typically don't want him to. But we've seen quarterbacks in prime time especially use their legs a little bit. So I think, it's kind of a kitchen sink game for the Miami Dolphins. I mean, we're really talking about 1 rush here. I kind of like that. And the other kind of a little bit of a gadget here, Malik Washington over 4.5 rush yards. He's had a rush in each of the first 2 weeks. Last week, 3 rushes for 23 yards. In the first week, 1 rush for 9 yards. Okay. So clearly, Mike McDaniels wants to get him involved. The Bills are actually one of the worst teams in the league against the run right now. A lot of that had to do with the Ravens absolutely running it down their throat in week 1. They cleaned some things up against the Jets, but still, there's opportunities there. And I mean, he had 3 rushes last week. The McDaniels is trying to, in a game where they got to figure out ways to manufacture some offense. That's what I'll go with there. The last one I'll give out, I know I've got a lot here, but hey, 6-0 last week. Tyreek Hill, give me 100 plus receiving yards, plus 330. The Bills have had a hard time stopping the wide receiver 1 for the 2 teams they've placed. They played the Ravens week 1, which obviously was an offensive shootout. But in that game, they gave up 7 catches for 143 yards and 1 touchdown to Zay Flowers there. And then last week, I think, there was only 150 passing yards total for the Jets, and Garrett Wilson had 50 of them. So it's the situation where the wide receiver one, they've got some solid cornerbacks, but they don't have someone who can really lock down someone like Tyreek Hill.
Sure.
You've got the Jalen Waddle issue, and I have this team's probably going to be down a shit ton. They're going to get thrown the ball. All right. Well, I said last one, but now I'm still waiting on these.
Oh, here we go. Here comes the defensive plays.
Defensive stuff. I was 2 for 2 on my sacks last
You were.
week.
Yeah.
I don't.
You almost got him on the same play.
Really did. I really did. I would have been nice. I'm not seeing a ton out there right now. But I think I see Bet365 looks like they have the most options there. AJ Epinesa at plus 310 is one I would sprinkle on, and then on DK you can get Joey Bosa for a sack at plus 114. I like both of those. I think those are kind of steals there. Talked about it. I mean, the Dolphins let up 5 sacks to not really the best pass rush in the Patriots. So really, I'm kind of just going to take some flyers there for the Bills because I think a lot of guys could get home there. Daquan Jones at 3-1 is also one that you might want to look at. And then on the defensive side for the Dolphins, Micah Fitzpatrick over 6.5 total tackles. They're they're going to be on the field a shit ton. This defense, they're going to have to make. He's going to have to make a lot of things right there.
Yeah, and in order for James Cook to pop over 110, he's going to have to get into that secondary a couple times. So
that last line of defense, man, he's going to have to be tested. He's gotten 8 tackles in week 1, 7 tackles last week. I think really a lot. Basically, Bills sacks and Miami Dolphins tackles. I don't think you can go wrong.
Yeah.
You can talk about Brooks and Dodson as well, but that's what I'll be on from the defense. So if you want to be a sicko like me and sweat some defensive stuff out, Bills sacks, Dolphins tackles over. Let's have a party. But that's it, man. We agreed.
I like it,
we're
man.
on the Bills. Even with the big number, we're laying it. Because how the hell can you back the Miami Dolphins at this point?
Yep.
But I've been talking a while, so I want you to tell the good people, what do you got for them?
We've been talking about the NFL for the past 50-some minutes. If you watch the NFL, you probably watch college football too. We just recorded our college football 6-pack of games last night.
Yep.
Picked our favorite 6 games that we thought had the best value on of this coming weekend. Picked one Thursday, one Friday, and I believe 4 Saturday games.
Yep.
So we got that out there. Obviously, we have NFL show every Wednesday night throughout the season. We also do a little bit over on IDP Plus, talking about fantasy. I do my waiver wire show that comes out Monday morning, talk about some injuries that happened early on during the Sunday games. You have your defensive injury report coming out tomorrow.
Right.
And then, as always, if you like what we're doing, share it out, tell a friend, tell a coworker what we're doing over here at DFSG Plus. Like, subscribe, tell us who you're backing this weekend down in the comments. If you're fading us, screw you. Sorry about it. No love lost here.
Yeah, no, look, this Thursday night game we're talked about here might be a stinker. So check out one of the Thursday night college footballs. Maybe you could get a little dual screen action, a little bit double sweat there going on if you're loving football like we are. Derek mentioned, look, it's our first year on this channel here, so we want to make sure we continue to grow here. So a couple ways to do that. Derek mentioned share to a friend, let your buddy know, subscribe, like the video, and then hit us up. You can follow Derek at Professor_Lock2 over on X. I am at the Degen Doc. In the comments, let us know, hey, what bets you like, what bets you want to fade, who you're on this week, what plays you like. Maybe we'll take, if it's a good play, we don't mind tailing. We want the whole community, the whole family to cash. And of course, all we ask is for a little bit of a like and a subscribe there, because we're going to cash all football season long. And look, folks, you know what they say. A lock a day keeps the bookie away. And here at the Degen Docs, we've got your prescription. From Professor Locks and Doc here at DFSG Plus, we are out of here.